this girl that I know. I met her at a summer kids show. I like her style.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. My name is Aedan, and I'd like to talk about a few things that have been on my mind. Use this medium as sort of a visual memoir of a relationship. If you think I'm going too far up my own ass, well, you have a valid claim, but I'm going to try to represent things as entertaining as possible. And for those who couldn't give less of a shit, sit back, relax, strap in, buckle up, hold tight, and enjoy the ride. It was the second week of our freshman year, and I had already managed to find a cute Asian girl to follow, which somehow led me to anime club. Yeah, curveball, right? She sat in the front of the room while I eyeballed her from the back. That's when I saw her. A different her. She was sitting on a desk talking to a flock of interracial nerds about some manner of Pokemon. Seeing how I had no one else to talk to, I migrated to her side. Apparently, she knew the Asian I was gazing, and we started talking. I proceeded to explain, to her face, how I was crushing hard on this other girl sitting mere meters away. But as I looked into her soft, brown eyes, while going deep into detail about how I would lay it into this Korean broad, I could feel a friendship budding. So that's what we did. We were friends. We would eat lunch sometimes and bond over our depressing home lives. Her with her alcoholic family, me with my suicide-committing uncle. Each of us just a real barrel of bananas. We had a lot of mutual friends too, so we'd see each other at parties where she would tell me about her boyfriend, and I would laugh while silently weeping into my solo cup. So I kept it light. I kinda had to. She was in a committed relationship, and I just started learning how the left hand felt. It was a bad time to fall in love with her. Ah, c'est la vie. I did. I fell hard. It was like one of those movies. You know, a moving picture. She was intelligent, beautiful, and self-hating. The old McCarty trifecta. And the more time I spent around her, the more difficult it became to hold on to my emotions. That is, until they broke up. Then the conversation started conveniently slanting towards how she should start dating someone more close to home. All right, I laid it on pretty thick, but it was a wholesome kind of flirt. The kind where I genuinely wanted her to feel comfortable around me, and the kind that isn't always reciprocated. I was rejected outright, with no real rhyme or reason. Maybe it was because I still clung to my baby fat like a life raft, or because the only girl I had kissed was a tiny goth that had nothing better to do. But she didn't want me. So I tried again and again and again to distract myself with women that I had adequate interest in. It was a hoary couple of years, let me tell you. I was the town bicycle. But I was riding them. It was more like they were all my bicycles. At this point, I was pursuing a black chick I had met during a game of urban manhunt. I found her hiding behind a BJ's Automotive, and the conversation grew organically from there. I entered my first real biff-jiff relationship, and it lasted a few good months. But it was longish distance, and soon the feeling started to fade, at least on my end. Our conversations became more mechanical and obligatory. Enough time had passed for me to remember things, so I started to revisit some of my old relationships, her included. And then the day came. May 11th, 2011. We decided to meet up in Hoboken after our individual babysitting gigs, something we shared. I remember leaving the house so excited. It's like my heart was keeping secrets from my brain. Everything came together so beautifully. The sun bleached the sky a deep, vivid blue. The Hudson even looked like an actual river and not a diarrhea lake. I approached her in front of a pizza place. She was wearing my favorite hoodie that she had, her dark hair pouring into the hood. I don't know, but I always found that super sexy, like I wanted to take a nap in there. We walked together to a newly installed island park. We stayed there for hours, just talking. It was the last few weeks of senior year, which lifted any outside pressure from our dialogue. Soon we were even sharing the same postmodern park bench, and then she slowly slid her body next to mine. Now, one would think that with all the poon I'd been thrashing, I'd be cooler than a cucumber in a polar bear's vagina. Nope. I was petrified. My body couldn't process the signals to react in time, and as I hesitated, I could feel her pulling away. That's when I held her. I pressed her tiny frame so close to mine I thought I absorbed her. But she was there, looking up at me. A smile spread from west to east. I kissed her on the way home. Of course, I promptly broke up with my girlfriend and spent the rest of the summer having crazy people sex. She started school in the fall while I took my gap year to work and do mics in the city. I take the $20 train almost every weekend just to see her and the ready-made friends she had at Rutgers. Each trip doubling as her personal advertisement for the school. She pleaded with me to come. This brought up several arguments, as my family wasn't in the best state. We also weren't in the best financial state to invest in my future. But she persisted, and I caved. I convinced myself that I was going there for my own reasons, but my parents saw through my thinly veiled scheme. They also saw how happy she made me, so they agreed to let me go. It wasn't long before tensions were raised. Both our families were struggling, and I was taking on thousands of dollars of student debt for a communication degree, really? The arguments got louder, and our families got closer. She was even invited to a family vacation in Cape May. A perfect opportunity to out how unstable we were. Have you ever had a falling out on a fishing trip? It sucks. There's nowhere to go. You can't leave. This led to a premeditated 3-day break, which we agreed was mutually necessary. We came back refreshed, ready to see the new Batman. However, this little road bump had rung the bell that we might not always be this adorably obnoxious couple that we were on that sunny day in May. This became more and more apparent as we'd started school, together this time. When we would study, I could see her visibly unnerved from all the pressure she was under. I'd try to calm her down, but often made things worse. I would catch myself yelling just to apologize afterwards and have a few moments of calm deliberation. We were caught in a cycle of rage and release, until finally we had to find some independence. So in November of 2012, we did. We knew we were still in love with each other, and that fact couldn't be ignored in favor of our emotional well-beings. We decided to have an open relationship with the intent of branching out to other circles and liberating our sexual urges. Yes, I'm aware of how naive that sounds. I was invited to stay at my friend's place for a week and check out the local stand-up scene. In Canada, where the stars shine bright and the girls give proper head. I experienced both of them. Me, being the idiot man, immediately told her about it, thinking transparency would strengthen our bonds. Instead, I just gave her a silver bullet if she ever needed an easy escape from a fight. After a while, though, it seemed like it was the right idea. We shifted to a safer distance, and it really felt like our dependency was diminishing. I started to see her as less of a girlfriend and more of a person, which paradoxically made me fall even deeper in love with her. I assumed she felt the same. The days got shorter, and so did her attention span. She dedicated most of her time to classes and Model UN, while I was busy reinforcing a drug habit I started in Canada. Needless to say, she didn't approve. I rebelled by trying out for the school's improv team. I didn't make it, but I did make it with a mousy Indian woman in the audience. Again, I told the old lady about it, but this time with broken capillaries all over my neck. Needless to say, I felt so bad, like I had betrayed her. She called the Indian woman ugly and cried out, "How could you take her over me?" I promised her that she was the only girl I could ever find attractive. And I believed it. About a month later, I could feel the tide starting to change again. She was constantly raving about her incredible escapades with her UN friends, and I would laugh while silently weeping into my dining hall glass. She'd talk about one in particular, though. A guy who just happened to share my name. Well, my middle name. She even lied when I asked her what she thought of him, inferably to avoid a very familiar argument. When she finally told me that they had held hands, I reacted better than I thought I would, with a ballless whimper of, "Well, you should do what makes you happy," unknowingly sealing my own fate. I had a bringer show in Sayreville that I had trouble finding guests for. So far I had my parents, my sister, my childhood friend, just one shy of entering. So I asked her, and after some hemming and hawing, she agreed to go. Not 2 days after I see my name on the poster, she informed me that she was invited to a UN excursion that took place where else? Canada. She would have to miss my show, which, by the way, was a competition for a trip to Montreal with who else? That guy. Well, you should do what makes you happy. It was the worst show I've ever done. The venue looked like where a Persian would hold a quinceañera. The neon lights bounced around the room just as much as the shitty techno did. The crowd started 3 rows from the stage, cloaked and muffled in a sensory landfill. I was the opener. I did my killer "did you ever notice" material and ran off stage, only to be followed by someone called Buddha. I never knew the Enlightened One had so many poop jokes. I ran outside, scrambling for a familiar voice. I tried calling her, but it was like she was in another country or something. So instead, I talked myself out of a fear-induced psychosis along the New Jersey Parkway until the end of the show, and left with my loving and forgiving family. I wanted to be the first face she saw when she came back, like when she'd come home for the holidays during my year off. But I was interning that night, so I settled on getting a haircut and buying a brand new outfit and treating her to a perfect evening filled with gifts, food, and comedy. I showed up at her door with a $25 Sephora gift card, a small ceramic elephant, and a single rose, the pussy-wetteningest trio on the face of God's green earth. She looked at them and began to cry. No, we're gonna have a nice evening. Trust me, we'll have fun. But that was it. We knew it right there. At least she did. I fought so hard. I was able to get her to still go out on the condition that it'd be as friends. We tried to talk like nothing was wrong, eat sushi like nothing was wrong, watch amateur improvisers like nothing was wrong. She wasn't in love with me anymore. She told me Canada changed things. It always does. She made out with him, and she liked it. She explained that it wasn't anything serious, but we still couldn't be like before. I couldn't hear it, but I was screaming. All I can remember me saying is, "Please, don't leave." She said she never would. She agreed with me when I said I needed attention, not isolation. I told her I was depressed, and she looked at me with confused pity. I think any guy who's been broken up with a girl he's still in love with knows what it's like to be retarded. At least a little bit. Huh? You don't like me? I walked home alone, smoked pot on the balcony behind my house, staring at that fucking skyline. She called me to make sure I was safe. I was intentionally ambiguous. She said that our friendship was still intact. I told her to prove it to me. 2 weeks, I heard nothing. No call, no text, no Facebook ping. I spent St. Patrick's Day. I spent St. Patrick's Day alone, sobbing. Still probably the most Irish thing I've ever done. When spring break ended, I decided to seek therapy. After I accidentally showed up a week before my scheduled appointment, I couldn't take it anymore. I did it. I called her. I tried so hard not to be that vulnerable idiot I was 2 weeks ago. But thankfully, she had the decency to not pick up. Instead, she messaged me online days later. She said that she was afraid to see me in public. She was done seeing me cry. And I told her the crying was happening whether or not she was there to witness it. It didn't matter. I like to fantasize that she was fighting her own hand and was doing all this for my own good. That she really did want to talk, but her therapist told her it was a bad idea. That probably wasn't the case. She was looking out for her interests, and who was I to blame her? Or him, for that matter. The only thing he did to me was find the same thing I found in her. Maybe it was supposed to end much earlier, and this was just divine punishment for my cowardice. I felt weak, but that didn't mean I was. I tried to contemplate the difference between being all alone and being on your own. I tried to find my own reality, separate from hers. I gave people a chance to impress me, and they did. I joined the school's second improv group and established my own reasons for being at Rutgers, even though I am leaving after this semester. I started critiquing my body and personality, making gradual improvements with both. I even got it wet again. I kind of forgot I could do that. This is where I'm at now. I still smoke too much. I'm not doing fantastic in my classes, and I have nightmares about her on a pretty rigorous schedule. Some days are darker than others, but that's what life is. No self-help book or documentary is going to help you learn something you don't already know. Your life is your responsibility. Fucking pick up your feet, and for Christ's sake, do what makes you happy.
This girl that